Okay, so here's the image of some Barnaba in Venice by John Singer Sargent. Can't quite fit it all on the screen for you. Here's the demo, but you can see most of it there. And now I'm just going to begin painting. Okay, so the first thing is we need to create a wash. Now, looking at the image here, I believe that Sargent has put a raw sienna wash. You definitely see raw sienna peeping through, or yellow ochre maybe, but it's very bright, so it's not a lot of colour there. Tea wash, sort of thickness. So start with that. So this is my raw sienna. Get rid of that grey, a little bit of grey still there. So here comes my raw sienna. See, it's a little bit warm there. That's nice. I'm going to make enough to cover this sheet. It's a tea wash, nice and thin, nothing too strong. I think he brought it all the way down through the whole picture, locked it in with that. Okay. Go. I'm just quickly bringing that through the whole scene. So that's unified. Like so. And then we just let that do its thing. And then move on to the next area. So I think for the sky, he's used, it looks to me like he's used French ultramarine. So if I take some French ultramarine, yeah, that kind of looks, no, might have just a little bit of a violet in there. So I just put a little bit of violet, just to warm that up. You'll see there is a sort of redness to the sky. So I'm just going to quickly mix that up. Put a bit of alizarin crimson in just to warm it up a little bit. There we go. Got that kind of a feel to it, hasn't it? And this is probably, right now it's going into sort of tea thickness towards coffee. So I don't want it too thick. It's in the background. So there it is, about tea thickness again. I'm just going to just check the paper. It's pretty much dry now. I'm going to bring that over the sky and through my sky shapes. Trying to be a little bit careful as I jot around these shapes of the building here. Goes up like that. Some kind of chimney shape here. Just pull that back out again. And then we come down towards the cupola here of some Barnaba. That seems to be working quite nicely. And then, as I get further down, just going to be careful as I go around the tower. not to cut into that space, that shape really of the tower. Doing the same, the other side. Bringing some of that blue note around the shapes in the distance, and stop there. Okay, so that's got a feel of what he was doing. I'm going to lift that anywhere where I think maybe I'm cutting into my shapes where there's lights. Then I'm just going to let it do its thing, you know. I see a little bit more bluish note up there. Maybe put a bit more in just before it completely dries. Certainly a little bit more there, maybe around. He sort of brings it down around the tower a little bit. Okay, that's so. And then just leave it do its thing. In the meantime, I'm going to lift out these areas here, let it do its thing, and then I'm going to move on to the next area. So this is just, I was trying to find a flat brush, couldn't find one, so it's probably everywhere my sink somewhere. I'm just lifting out these shapes. They're probably going to keep coming back as this cascades down, but anyway. The rest of it pretty much is fine because there's a lot of other colours there. So the other colours I'm going to go into right now. So there seems to be quite an area of burnt umber with some orange note maybe. Just going to make a tea wash. I'm just going to bring that down, just add a bit of that colour. Coming down this building here, there's definitely some of that going on. And then maybe as I look around, there's maybe a little thinner sort of tea wash going off down the street a little bit down here by the bridge here. Definitely something there going on. Be careful not to paint over the bridge. There's some shapes in the next bridge which have that kind of feel too, so I just paint those in. There's definitely some of that going on down here in the water areas. A little bit over here over the side of the, coming down from the church and over the bridge, behind the bridge even. There's an echo of it on the water here. It probably gets deeper, but if I just put that in for now, that'll help. And then that's seemingly drying now, so I could add a bit more of the orangey terracotta feel. So that's a bit of orange with a little bit of alizarin crimson. I'm just putting that into the shape. I think it's stronger than I'm playing it, so maybe a bit of cad red as well. Let's just see now. Yep, that seems better. A bit of cad reds did what I wanted it to do. Maybe a little bit of that colour. That was the sky colouring to there. Give it a bit more strength. Try your best to keep those, keep the shape as you come down. Then as I get to the roof here, he paints the roof shapes, so chimney pot there, just put that in. Then he leaves a little light line like that, a broken line there. Then we have the shape again. It sort of peters out, sort of dry brush affair, going across like so. Down, probably comes up the side of the building as well, wouldn't surprise me, because it's all masked in shadow. So I can just put a little bit of it coming down to create the... So while I've got this sienna colour, I can paint it anywhere where I'm seeing the shadows, because you know what? The shadow's going to cover it anyway and give it a bit more richness. So to do that, there's a couple of areas up here where there's a little bit of light, and there's some kind of details here. It's quite nice. The shapes in this Romanesque tower of the church here. Seeing a little bit more red here and there from this terracotta. I just put it in as I see it. Just respond to what you're seeing. He's taught us everything we need to know with this picture. See more there. And then gradually move along. Now, studying this area, there's more sort of a, okay, the raw sienna's doing fine, but there's more of a lilac-y kind of feel there. So if you check his shadow out, the reflection for the church itself, it's not quite in line. It's like, you know, he's on a boat probably, I would imagine, or it looks like he's on the boat. If he was on the other bridge, he would be at eye level with that bridge, and he's not. So he's on a boat, so he's probably moved a little bit. Anyway, whatever happened, this shadow here, you know, it moved. I'm going to try to straighten mine up a little bit. There we go. It's a little bit darker, maybe. It's got a bit of a brownish note of a raw umber in it. Anyway, I'm going to take that colour now. I'm going to start to feed it in wherever I'm seeing that red note. It's burnt sienna. And then if I add a bit of this purpley note to it, it cools it. I'm starting to see some of that on some of the faces here of these buildings, so I could start to make some slightly cooler variants of that. And if you notice, what he does is he uses his brush and he creates these little thin window shapes, like so. A couple of shapes like this that he then brings together with a unifying squared edge, and he brings that down, and then he immediately starts to create more window shapes below. Be ready. I'm getting a few in now, and I come down this building, going to join that. There's a lot of stuff going on. This comes all the way down to the sort of street level. A little bit of it coming over by the bridge here. Just have fun trying to imitate some of his shapes that you might be seeing there, before we start to move into something a little bit more strong. A couple of little shapes up here in the sky. The sky should be starting to dry a little bit now. There's a little shape here of a balcony or something. I like that. Put that in. Coming down, he's created some. I'm putting some raw umber into my mix there to make a darker colour. I'm starting to see that there's some darker shapes up here. Okay, these closer shapes. What's going on in the distance there? Well, it gets thinner. So we go from these, sort of tea washes to thinner tea washes, and there's a little bit more blue. So if I add a bit more blue, pale that out, I can now start to put some kind of shapes. They seem to be similar tones to the sky, maybe just a little bit darker. Anyway, drawing these little shapes, try to create the effects of windows. The odd door, if you can see one, what he does is he creates these streaky lines like so, and then he goes back in and he fills up some of those shapes like that. And then suddenly you've got a couple of windows. That's it, as quick as that, really. And then he might dot a little bit here and there over there. And then he moves on to the next one. And the next one has a bit of violet in it. It's opposite the church, so it's a bit darker. So I'm going to mix a bit of the brown into the violet. Maybe a bit of blue. Make this sort of blue-violet grey. This is a bit stronger here, so I'm going to put that in. Punctuate that area there. A little bit of that colour. Cobalt blue into it, maybe. Just seeing it, it's got a purpley note, but it's kind of grey, and it's a strong colour. So I'm bringing that down, and then gradually I'm just going to dry my brush a little bit and drag a little bit of that colour down. It makes it lighter and paler, and there's a little bit of an echo of that same value going off down the way. And then he uses some of that colour to dot in some other shadows as we come back. So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to dot in some more shadows here. On top of the bridge, you'll see these little shapes coming together like frontages of the shops or something. I'm not quite sure what they are. I mean, they're kind of blue-grey, so that's why I'm adding sort of blue-grey note to my painting now. And they're abstract shapes, but I'm trying to get them in the right place. That's really important because I don't want to lose that feel. That's alizarin crimson and ultramarine blue. More purpley lilac colour. I can take some of that grey into it because I don't feel that my colour is exact yet. So I'm trying to there. That's better. It's got that sort of blue note. As I feed that over, you see, create a layer. I'm going to bring a bit of that layer up here, maybe. See, trying to step into his shoes is quite tricky, but because he likes to put a lot of layers, and I know he would be skipping over here and there, but I've got to be more considered because I'm copying this scene, and I don't have the freedom to move across. Plus, also, I'm trying to gain from his wisdom. That's the idea. There's some kind of shutter here, maybe there, to mask the sun out from the shop there, and then he comes down. So I'll try and keep that there. There's a blue note there. That's a bit of cerulean, to bring a bit of that blue into there. And there's a couple of these little perspective shapes, could be balconies, whatever they are, little window shapes. I try to put them in. And then there's a couple of up here. Just move that out of the way so I don't get it in my picture. A couple of shapes coming down, and then I'm kind of ready to move across. Okay. But before I do, I take some of that purple note there, and I'll put the shape here. I'm seeing a shape there, and then he goes really into sort of red notes. So that's cad red into my ultramarine, into my Sienna. So that's Sienna. That's cad red. So pink it up as you go across. keep those shapes. There's a light area here. We'll try and keep that. There's another sort of shape here. And there is this alizarin crimson note too. So I'm going to bring some of this pink. Again, it's very thin. It's like a tea wash just there maybe. Even comes down across the top of the boat. I feel that he's got a bit of that going on in there too. So just going to be brave, put it in where I think he's used it. There's a bit of it up there too. So when he gets a good idea, he uses it again and again. There's a little bit of that going on here maybe. So I'll just put that over there. Maybe over here too. So that's good. And even there, maybe on that blind, certainly over those windows and up there. So that was, as I put that in, I could see where he was doing it there too. And he may have even put a little bit over there. Yeah, definitely on the roof there. So that's good. And then this area here to the back. Here, there's something else going on. Looks to me like there's some yellow and an orange. So if I take some yellow, maybe that's going to work. That really helps. There's something going on there though, you see it? And if I add a little bit of red, a little bit of that, you start to create these shapes. There's some kind of, I don't know, the kind of architectural things going on. It's sort of, it's very tight actually, some really clever brushwork down there. Little lines coming together. Beautiful. Anyway, that's what I feel is going on. And then here there is a blue note of a shadow for maybe the balcony. There's a couple of little windows that he's put up there that he's used a thinner brush, I think. I'll wait for that to dry before I put any more of that in because it definitely looks drier. Maybe a little bit more red into my colour. Maybe not as much as that. A little bit of cad. Bit of see, they're all reds mostly, and then some shadowy colours. Just to create a bit of relief. There's a bit of red there too. Then there's this other church, which I don't think is there anymore because I've painted here and I don't recognise that church at the end at all. So it's almost like a copy of this one. So I'm just going to play homage to the idea of it. It's got more raw sienna in it because it's distant. Just going to put a sort of yellowy note to it. Try to get the spire going. There it is. Maybe not any more than that. And then a couple of little blue dots, 3 in a row. The bell tower. There it is. I don't think I really need much more than that there. Would have been good to get some of the blue going on around the side of it more accurately. So try your best to fill in those gaps. There we go. And I think that's enough with that. And then I'm going to just put a couple of ideas for little shapes that I'm seeing back there, creating the noise that I feel that he's giving us. And then I'm going to move on. So I'm going to cut across now. I'm going to take some raw umber, some more of a coffee thickness now. Going to start to bring that from shadow shape underneath. It's probably got a bit of violet blue in it. There it is, that's feeling better. Put this under, there's a couple of little brush strokes, and this sort of shapes underneath the bridge. Okay. I'll add a little bit of yellow ochre to it. And then this shape, we're going to bring this all the way across to the other side. And as we go across the other side, you'll see it kind of warms up a little bit. You've got to be very careful. So maybe add a little bit of orange into it as it goes across. Trying to match into the line. And then suddenly, wow, it goes back to the darks. And then he uses, he uses some teal, cobalt teal in there. I'm just going to feed that right in. His is quite wet, feels a bit wetter than what I'm doing there, but whatever, it's got a cobalt teal look to it, so I'm just putting it in. Maybe add a little bit more water, seems to get a bit wider there. It's very difficult areas, to be honest, but there we go. and bringing it down to the shadow end of the water here. And there's a boat. And how does he do it? Well, he creates the back of the boat by drawing the shape of the boat with the shadow relief like that. You see that? There it is, kind of like that. And then he immediately starts to draw the shape of the boat as it comes back with these little waves coming back, joins all that shadow shape together. And then he drops some blue in there. Looks to me like cerulean. Just going to clean that area out before I put it in. There's some cerulean and a little bit of, it's quite thick now. It's sort of coffee thickness. To put that in there. There it is. Maybe the echo of it in the water there. That's working nicely. Maybe add a little bit more of the thickness to the top of the boat. There it is. And the shadow shape. And there's a couple of, so I'm using the burnt sienna here, just to draw some of those shapes that we're seeing on the, it kind of mixes and matches a bit of the other darker colours in with that, as you'll see. But there's a shape here, sort of in the stonework, and he's putting them all in, really very decoratively. A little bit of the lines at the top here. Any one of these could go wrong and you mess up your picture, so you be very careful with these little details on the bridge. Okay, working well now, that's good. So now I'm going to go deeper and darker with these, a bit of alizarin crimson, a little bit of the burnt umber. I'm just going to start to feed into the next bridge. This bridge here. So there it is, shape there. And these sort of shapes, you put some orange in there. You can see there's a bit of orange. Right next to it is a bit of darker brown, sort of a burnt umber, raw umber kind of thing going on to the side of the boat there. Draws out the side of the boat. There's a couple of little shapes, putting them in there. Adds a little bit of water in there. There it is. And then there's some violet. Let's put some of that violet into the equation. I've got some cerulean there. If I put that into it, I can get a very strong lilac-y violet going on there, sort of in there. It's not the only place he uses it. He'll use that more often. So I'm going to stop with that now, though. And then I'm going to go to the next colour, use a bit more of the orange. So down here I'm keeping my raw sienna. Up here I'm keeping the burnt sienna. Over here blue violets. Up here greys. That'll help. Okay, so down here there's more of that feel of the orange. There's a bit of the orange in the boat there. Put a couple of those shapes in, why not? While I've got it, some boarding in there. Trying to think my way through it. It's very difficult to unpick a master's watercolour. Now, this is raw sienna. Just putting that into over the bridge. And while it's wet, I'll add some burnt sienna, maybe a bit of burnt umber. There it is, just to create some of these little shapes that I'm seeing. And then lastly, I'll just punctuate it with a dot. This is Paynes grey. Just going to put a little dot of grey in there. Some kind of window or door or something he's put there. He's also put a bit of that down the side of this building here. Bring that down to the side of the top of the bridge, like so, and cut that shape there. Okay, gives you a bit more depth. And that leads into some burnt sienna. Here it is. Just put that in nice and neat. Just fire that up. Maybe put a bit up there as well. There seems to be a bit of that there. And then I've got this purple colour here, which I just added some burnt sienna to, but I've replenished it now. And then I'm just going to put those 3 bell towers in. These are quite critical, really, so take your time, make sure they work nicely for you. Got a square bottom, but try and keep them looking sort of organic. That would be good. Hoping that's not too strong. I'll wait for it to settle in a little bit before I decide if I lift a little bit of it. Yeah, I can lift a little bit of that. Just a little bit. Okay, feels a bit better now. And now I'm just going to put a little bit of that colour over the roof here. And I've lightened it with a bit of water just to, because I didn't want to make that same mistake twice. You could go into a fresh area with strong colour, you're not sure exactly how it will react. I probably want a bit too dark. I had to lift it. I don't like lifting in a delicate area. Anyway, so now I'm starting to come up this sort of shadow shape. This is all in the dark, so I think that's going to get darker there. So I can go over it. If I can go over it, that's good news, because I can wait to go back in. I'm just going to paint the shapes on the side of the church here. There we go. This will give me more of the sort of definition. You'll notice that he puts a little shadow on one side. In fact, he puts a little line coming down. You can put all of that in if you want. There's some kind of little roof thing he sticks here, and I don't know if that was an afterthought or a mistake, but he seems to have blocked it off with his finger, like so. Anyway, you get the idea. And there's a thing there, little line there. Put that in. And that gives that more sort of something. And then I'm taking more of that colour now, and I'm just going to go in for a second hit on that roof here where it's darker. Going to put the little spots in, there's like little windows. Now I've been there, these windows are square, but he makes them sort of round, and I kind of like it round, so I'm going to leave that with him. And then I'm going to put a bit of that colour over the same colour, just going to mask it over that area there and the bridge. And then I'm going to start to come into this area. This has a blackness to it to begin with here. So I'm using Paynes grey. I have a feeling though he might have used lamp black, but I don't have lamp black, so I'm just going to bring that down because there's a bit of a greeny tint to it. But anyway, moving back up. Okay, that worked. He instantly goes into, this is the thing, it looks like cerulean, maybe cobalt blue, something like that. It's got a blue note to it. See it? Just on the side of the building there. Probably got more cerulean in it than anything else at the bottom. Just going to chase some of that colour into there before I move up, because I start to now see it goes into sort of Indian reds. Now I don't have Indian red, but what I do have is I've got alizarin crimson, and if I add that to my burnt sienna, maybe a bit of burnt umber, it's going to give me something strong enough to augment into there. Not quite strong enough, so I've got to add something to it, maybe a violet. That's better. I think that's the trick. A bit of violet, maybe a bit of cad red. Trying to get something dark and at the same time, look at that. I want it to be dark and red. It's got that kind of look to it. So this is quite strong now. Going definitely into sort of milky thickness territories. Bring that up, this shadow shape. And then as we get to the edge of the building, it goes into sort of purples. So I'm just going to use the blue purple colour I have here for that sort of a, you could call it a lavender colour, something like that anyway. It's blue, violet-y grey. And once he starts to go into these shapes now, you have to be very, very careful with the tip of your brush. Try to create these little shapes, and then add a little bit of water here and there just to soften that edge down, because you'll see he does that. You know, it comes down. I don't get all the detail he's doing there. There's just so much to it in the time. I don't think I can do it all. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pay homage to some of the shapes I'm seeing. Here we go, coming down that line again, some of that blue-violet mix. Then I go back up, there's a chimney here. Now, I don't know why I didn't say that before. So now we're going into the, I would say these are more kind of blue, red, purples, and these sort of greys. Anyway, just going to bring that down the side of this building here. It's quite a strong colour. It's hard to judge, to be honest, because he goes from various thicknesses. He'll go into thinner colour, into the more intense, thicker colour, and then he just brings the brush down like so as he comes along. And then he'll add some other colours, like it looks to me like he's adding, at this point, burnt sienna. And then it carries on. And I'm just going to bring that shape all the way up. Yeah, I'm just going to paint it in the shape, okay? So that's what you do. So keep that alive. The hard edges on that side there, and you sort of drag that across like so, and then you almost, yeah, there we go. And then he sort of goes into sort of more oranges down the bottom, maybe more raw sienna. I would say it's more raw sienna, maybe, whatever that is. I'm just going to put raw sienna in there. Just varies the colour temperature just a little bit as we come along the bottom. And then he's back into his violety reds again. Just going to bring that across. There's a couple of little shapes that he plays around there. Then we go back up. I'm going to play around these little shapes that are on the side, and then I'm bringing that colour. Probably got more alizarin crimson in it right now, and a bit more burnt umber, something like that. There it is, and it comes up to here. Just going to quickly get that in because it's quite strong. Got to be careful going around these little fellas here. There's a couple of little characters that I believe is maybe you know, the local Venetians doing their thing, but they seem to be wearing almost like Arabic, you know, wraps or something. I don't know, can't really say, but they're strange shapes. So anyway, I'm trying to see where they are and paint around them. I think they're figures. Almost looks like the three wise men, you know? Wasn't Barnaba one of the wise men? Maybe that's what they are, the three wise men. Maybe someone could tell me, I don't know. Anyway, there's my shape. Let that do its thing. And I'm going to get ready some neat paint. Here's some Paynes grey. That's too cool. Here's some, that looks like a burnt umber. That's pretty good. Let's start to immediately start to put some windows. Trying to get the right sort of thickness because it is a bit darker, but not so dark, you know. So I'm coming across here now. some little shapes in there, little cornicings. Try and bring those in. This bit here, there's some orange in there, but to me, it looked like it was there as an underpainting, so I missed my chance on that. I'll just put something there. And then down here, he actually put some orange into the paint there. There's a bit of orange going on. There's a little bit of orange down there, a bit of orange here, there. Yeah, and then I'm going to go back into those, maybe it's raw sienna, burnt umber. There's some window shapes, just little lines. Yeah, that feels better. And there's like a little there's an arch here, another window, another arch, a couple of little shapes here. Maybe some burnt sienna in there. Just a bit of colour there, seems to be a bit lighter. And then maybe some of that purple into the browns down here, because what he does is, I've noticed he varies got to be careful, you see, with this kind of artist. He's dotting about with his intentions. He knows what he's going to do. Makes it really difficult for us because we've got to get in his shoes. It's almost impossible. So there's some shapes of people walking along. I'm going to put a couple of those in on there. There's a window just above this guy. There's another window here, another one there, just a doorway there. And then we come to our wise men. Anyway, at least I think they're wise men. And there's a guy who's got a turban. He's got a shadow shape with a turban. Put that in. Yeah, bring that up to this shadow shape of this guy. That comes here. He's got a kind of a turban. Remember Singer Sargent, he's been to Morocco painting, he's been to so many destinations where he would have come across Arabic shapes. And so I think that's what these guys are. And then up here, we've got a couple of little, there's an archway up here that he brings down. Big doorways are open there, you can see it. And then maybe with a warmer note, there's some burnt sienna into that sort of purpley colour. I'm just going to try and finish off some of these shapes here. There's an arch, more Moroccan shape there, or something like that. Again, above the three wise men, what I'm calling them. And there you go. I've got that side done. I feel that's pretty cool. And then there's a little blast. I'm going to clean this one out because I need another well. There's a little blast up here. You can't see it, but I'll bring this down. Just up here, there's a grey sort of sienna note. So if I take some sienna, raw sienna that is, there we go. Bit of alizarin crimson, and I think that's the kind of thing we're seeing there. And it's almost dry. It is sort of dry brush effect that he's using. So I'm just going to mimic this idea a little bit. There's a little chimney thing going on up there. There's a structure of the side of a roof. A bit more alizarin crimson, a bit more sienna. You can put some lines going across because there's some kind of lines there, and then peter out to that corner there. And there we go. And then up there, more Paynes grey, maybe a bit of ultramarine blue. And then there's these spots. So, these are architectural details again, with the cornice underneath it, like so. That's good. And then I'm going to lift out. I'm lifting out now some of these shapes I'm seeing, like here. There's some kind of reflected light. And then there's this shape here between the balcony. There we go. It's kind of grey. I'll put some grey in there. Why not? So, kind of getting that idea there. That's good. And now I'm going to move down to my wise men. So I've got some orange here. I'll take some cad orange. That's the first guy. It's got a bit of an orangey feel to him. The next guy has a bit of an orangey feel at the top, but then it suddenly goes into grey blues. So I'm just going to respond to what I'm seeing, grey blues. This guy, well, he's even more tricky. He's got shape around his head. His arm comes down. He's carrying something out in front of him. The other guys are carrying something out in front of them. I mean, this is really amazing when you start to look at the shapes, what's going on here. This little procession of wise men. Wow, who would have thought? Anyway, let's move along to this guy. And he's got, it's like a purple cape following and cascading behind him. So I'll just put that in. Then above the purple cape here, there is a little bit of an orange. Just lifting back a little bit of light there so I can put orange into there. There it is. Bit of orange. So there's the orange. Throw that in. There it is. Bit of that raw sienna colour as well. Here on his cape. There they are, 3 characters on the side of the water there. Now, as we go alongside of the water here, there's a highlight, but it's got a sort of a pinkish, looks to me like alizarin crimson again. Just bring that across. Just going to wet it up a little bit. There it is. Beautiful. And it even see some of that now on the side of the bridge down here. So I just put a bit of that there. That really worked. Even up here, a little bit there. And look what it does. It pulls that away from what's in the background. That really is looking good. So, I could do with being a little bit dirtier, but I need to clean some wells. I'm really struggling with how this guy did this in a boat, probably more quickly than I am, directly from his imagination and the scene. Well, what do we know? How did he do it? I have no idea. The guy was a genius. Really, really a genius. So anyway, I'm probably coming to the end now. So what I want to do is I just want to quickly clean these areas out because there's some blues and purples and I've got a lot of muddy colours. I don't want muddy colours there. So let's just quickly find purpley blue. No. That's good. That'll be fine, maybe. Blue. Could get there, something like that. Okay. Right. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to feed this purple colour. I'm seeing instantly that it's not as blue as I want it. I'm going to change my water because I think maybe my water isn't helping. Okay, so I'm just going to use pure purple. It seems to be, to my mind, the closest I've got to what I'm seeing. So it kind of comes around just in this space here, around the tower. Here it is, a bit of purple. And then I'm just going to soften the edge a little bit where it meets the shape of my reflected tower. There we go, there's the purple kind of colour. It seems to work. Okay, and then we've got some orangey notes. So I'm just going to put some orangey notes into the water here. And as you know, orange, there's a bit of cad red into the orange as well. As we come down here, I want to make it a little bit stronger, that orange. you know, more of a feel of orange there. And then, as you know, the thing is with orange, it's the opposite colour on the wheel to purple. So it's a great idea to use orange there, isn't it? What a clever guy. And we can use that orange anywhere now that I'm starting to see maybe, you know, subtle changes. So that orange with a bit of cad red probably did up there as well. I mean, this guy would have just dotted around with his eye, looking for these mid-tones, whacking them in before he puts his shadow tones. Now, this was the great thing about, you know, the genius of this guy apparently was that Duran, his master at the academy, said, you know, this artist immediately spots the halftones. He knows exactly where the halftones are. They go to the shadow, go to the light. So, you know, a lot of artists will go from their shadow tone to the mid-tone towards the light, and think about it in a very, I'm not going to say mechanical, but a methodological way, yeah? Well, this is not apparently how Singer worked. Singer Sargent worked in a different way. What he did was he could work not from the dark to the mid to the light. He worked from the mid to the dark and the light. What a difference in perception you see that is, because if you can recognize all the differences immediately in some way, like he is, of these halftones. Now, you see, the world is not black and white, is it? The world is actually halftones with some areas of shadow. Sometimes it's more shadow as the light reduces, or if there's more light than shadow. But there's a predominance of midtones, light midtones, middle midtones, dark midtones. That's what he's seeing. That's what I'm seeing. Now, when I look at this, I see his attention to midtones. So anyway, got a little bit of Paynes grey. I'm not sure if he was using sepia, whatever he was using a lot of it. From the photocopy, it's very tricky to see. Anyway, I'm going to get in now to the shadows. So to begin with, testing these colours just to see where they might work. Underneath the bridge there's a little bit of going on down there. There's a boat down there. I'm going to be going from sort of coffee thickness in the background. As I come forward, I'll probably go to creamier thicknesses. This has got some brown in it. Let's see what we can do. Okay, I can't promise anything, but I'm going to try to get these shadow shapes on these halftones and lock the painting together. That's my idea, because that's how I think he did it. I think he would do it in these kind of phases of values on top of value. The shapes going on. There are the boats. Top of the boat there. There is a little shape. It's the roof of the boat, maybe. There it is, and the barge comes out at the, the bow there. So it leans forward, and then we've got another boat. We saw this boat. We saw the shape of the bow. Actually, a bit of the hull showing up there. That area under the bridge there as we come forward. There's some areas of shadow, maybe not as dark as what I'm maybe notice. I'm going to push some burnt sienna, which is a lighter redder brown, into these shapes as I come by the side of the bridge, some of that shape. And I'm going to get my little atomizer and wet that up a bit. because I just want these colours to settle in a little bit as they come around the shapes. Put a bit of cat red into there. I think his browns are just really quite beautifully ranged in there. Not only their value, but their temperatures. They go from reds to... There's just so much going on. Really, there is. So you see a bit warmer over there's three sort of lines here which join across to some bigger pools of ripples or whatever they are. I mean, they look like reflections with ripples, ebbs and flows. It's all that sort of thing going on. There's a lot of stuff going on. You know, he's reacting kind of spontaneously and linking that back to the bridge there. And then he goes into sort of purple colours, mix the violet in to these shapes as you come forward. This ellipsoid shape here that he creates, it then joins another ellipsoid shape, which joins another ellipsoid shape. And then if you follow your eye down from here, there's this Romanesque tower, and he kind of joins these again with these little interspersed shapes that follow like ripples coming down. I'm not going to copy them exactly. I'm just going to try and copy the feel of them. That's all I can do really, because otherwise you'd be there forever trying to copy those shapes. And I don't think he was, you know, he did them automatically at the time. And you know, their reactions to what he's seeing. So that's how I want to play it. I want to play it more like that. And then over the yellow here, the same again. So we've got more of the same. Shape there. You know, you'll struggle to get your brush to do what it's demanding of you, but try your best. These little ripples, they feed into each other here. And it's really, his shapes are just so beautiful. They are tremendous. Something going on over there before we get to the last line of ripples. As something like that. And then we go into this shape. You'll see it. It's kind of, and then you'll cut that across. So, and then we'll see this blue shape, this blue lilac-y purple shape. Cuts over, and it joins and it cuts. You know, it's just amazing to see it. And I'm struggling to keep up really with his ideas, but I'll keep trying. Okay, so then we go into these dark shapes. Now I'm going to put blacks over those later, but for now I'm just going to work around a boat. I'm seeing a boat. Then this shape joins the shadow shape, comes around the boat. Then there's more of that shadow shape around the bow of the boat there. The next boat. I'm just going to feed that down as a purple at this point because I'm seeing a lot of that purpley colour. It's very thin on the boat. There. comes around here, then comes down into the water, and then back here into the water, here in the water. Maybe lift some of that out as well, that was probably too strong. Here. There we go, it feels a bit better. This shape, I never really got to the top and bottom of it. It joins here. There we go. And then we're going into these darker purple shapes and then blacks. So I'm just going to mix a darker purple shape. There's purple, violet rather, with Paynes grey. Okay, let's see what that does. Some shadow shape here, no idea what it is. Probably something hanging off the side of the water there, and then there's a little ripple. Could be a drain. There's another shape, comes down at the edge of the boat there. Got to be very careful, don't want to lose the shape of my boat. It comes around and then it creates at the waterline here a ripple, and another ripple, and another ripple, and a bigger ripple. Maybe some of those ripples feed into those ripples. I'm seeing some of that. And then at the back of the boat there, it's a big shadow that joins with that shadow, which joins with some ripples. The ripples here feed into some green. So I'm going to attempt to put some green into there. I'm going to put it in a different area because I don't want to pollute. That colour's been quite successful for me. So here's the green. See a little bit of the green emerging here. Might be a bit thinner in places, so some of that greenish watery note. I also see that greenish watery note down here. So I could start to play it with the idea of putting that into there as well. I can see a little bit of it over here. It's more sort of greeny grey. Side of the wharf there. There's some shapes going to another shadow shape. It's all very complicated. It's suggested like abstract shapes. And that's how I'm going to treat it. This comes up to the bow of the boat here. There's another boat right leading us out. Okay, and in there is some blue. I think it's more of a cobalty blue, but if I use cerulean there, that worked very well. And then I'm going into these shadow shapes again. So here they are. That's a purple. I'm going to cut this across the top of my boat to the edge of the walkway that the wise men are up on. There's another shape of another boat. Gotta be very careful in those shadow shapes. Lost one already. You see, that started to give me an idea and an impression of the shape of the boat. So he's cutting out the shape of that boat as he suggests the other boat. He's so clever. There's another shape to that. Okay, maybe some brown going from that edge. See there's the bow turns and then it turns into there. There we go. Anyway, what's going on here? Well, we have another shadow shape, more Paynes grey, more violet. Maybe a bit of green. Here we go. Here's that shape there. And then, bang, we have another shape, another boat. relentless. Relentless. There it is, just a line. And then, see, that's even darker. Then I'm coming down, cutting that shape out as I come into, looks like a raw sienna in there, some orange in there. Yeah, definitely, and that goes up the side of the wood of the boat, a little bit on the back of that boat. Almost there, I think. A bit of that orangey note into the wood, cutting across the boat there. There we go. Bit more there. Purple shade. More of the shadow at the base of the boat there. So tricky. And then definite line at the base of the boat. And then I'm going into back over this side now because I feel I've got quite a lot going on there that's helping. This side now needs some lift. So I'm going to do that now. I'm coming over here. Right, so that greeny note maybe is going on over here a little bit. That is a lot of Paynes grey, I'm thinking. Which is my closest colour to what I'm seeing. Maybe a bit of sepia, there it is. Then I'm going to bring that Paynes grey sepia maneuver into the shadow shape down here that cuts out the shape of this boat. So this is a canal barge, and then the hull rises here, and then it stops, and then turns down, and as it turns down, its silhouette draws this boat in the foreground. You see? So that's tricky. And then you can use some of that colour, which seems to play into that area there. Then it comes around the side there, and then with more blue into the colour, it then goes underneath the boat here, over that green area I had painted before. And then I've got a shape for the boat, and then some kind of lighter mid-tone wash over the whole area, let's say. And then into the shadows under the boat. Now under the boat is pretty much these heavy brown greys into the water. And that comes out as a mirror image to this shape, but then it instantly goes warm into what can only be described as burnt sienna reds, but are darker than this. So here it is. I'll bring that out. And there you go. Quickly have another look, see if there's anything else I can do. Nope, I'm going to go into the contents of the boat with some of that burnt sienna. There's various things going on in there. I use some of that burnt umber, burnt sienna mix, which is slightly darker brown note coming around inside the boat there. You can see a wooden board that you would sit on if you're steering. And then there's some kind of grey shadows. So I'm going to make these grey shadows just by using that brown with a bit of neutral, Paynes grey, that is. And just put a wash of it over the interior of the boat where less light will be, and then leave the rest be, because this area, if you notice, there's some light hitting some shapes which look like sacks or something in there he's created for us as, you know, more detail, as if we needed more. And there it is. So the whole thing now starts to lock together. I'm just going to come down through here one more time, a little bit more emphasis on the shadow shapes. And I think we pretty much have our scene. Bit of blue up there. There it is. Bit of cobalt blue maybe. Yeah, it's something like that. Just at the top there. Yep. Gives that edge a bit more, a bit down there as well maybe. Bring that down. And then got a little chimney thing up here. Going to reverse paint that now. I should have done it from the beginning. Needs a bit of yellow ochre. Maybe a bit of, just a little bit of warmth to it. I used a bit of permanent rose or something. That's fine. A little bit more chimney detail up there. Just put a bit more depth on the side of that. Underneath there. Just a little bit more. Just to create more of a feel of shadow underneath that corbel in there. A little bit more of that purple note going on down here. Over the edge of the canopy of the little roof that sits on the top there, and it comes down. Its own little shadow at the side, and then I think I have my scene pretty much what I wanted. More than enough for study. Hope you've enjoyed it, and good luck. Okay, there we go.